friends. So in previous video we were talking about how to create that PO table with the basic operations. So in this video I'm just going to show on how to create that PO table with the advanced feature, like how to create that filters in PO table, how to create that average, and how to create that sum of functions, and we are having and many more advanced feature in that. So let's we do one by one that functionality. So the first one I'm just having that so before getting into that, I'm just having that company worksheet here. So the company worksheet means it is having around 100 records. So each one will have that name, number of work days, and the number of work month, and what amount to be paid for that name. So assume that the Raj is the Raj is the person worked for 4 days in the month of January, and so the amount 200 to be paid for the Raj for the month of January. So likewise, we are having many number of persons and many number of even you can find the Raj. So that is available for that February month, and February month around 250 to be paid for the person Raj. So likewise, we are having the data with around 100 records, 100 rows. So I'm just going to have that around 4 scenarios, and I need to going to use that pivot table to fetch the records based on that scenario. So in the first scenario, I just want that average number of days for each name. Okay, so this cannot be done manually, as it having around 100 records, and it can be more than that also. So I'm just putting that with the 100 records. So let's create a pivot table by through navigating to data menu and clicking that pivot table here. So in that I'm just selecting the data ranges, just selecting that serial number, and going down, selecting that end row. Okay, it's done. Now let's go above and insert into it's something like clicking that existing sheet and selecting that relevant cell, that means this to this, that pivot table should be created. And if I click that range got selected and clicking create. Now I'm just having that rows and columns, and now I just want that average number of days available for each name. Okay, so I just want to retrieve that number of days worked against that each name. So for that I'm clicking that rows, I'm just adding the rows as a name, average number of days. So I need to select that values I'm selecting as a number of work days. So that means I'm having the data here. So if you check that result, you're having around 3, 6, 9, 11. We are having that names around 9, 11 records only, and we can see that total number of work days here. How many days Avin worked? He worked around 64 days for the entire months. So we are here. So let's assume we need to find that average of that work days. How many days he the Avin worked for the month of January, and what is the number of days he worked for the month of February, likewise. So what is the average number of days he worked against that month? So for that we need to have one more values. We can add one more values, and we can take that same work days again, and this time I'm just selecting that average function instead of summarize by, instead of selecting that sum function, I'm just selecting that average. Likewise, you can have a number of functions available in the predefined checkboxes. So I'm just selecting that average function here, and you can see one more option, so as a percentage. So here you can see that another type of drop downs here, like a percentage of row and percentage of column. How many the data, I'm just having that average value, but how do I show it there, whether it's a grand total percentage at the specific column or specific row. So I'm just putting the default. Okay, default. Let's check how it is coming. Okay, here I'm saying that data is 8. That means that average the person Abin is has worked 8 days as average for each month. So let's check another option in source. So if I check that percentage of row, I'm just having that 100 percentage because that it is calculating against that row. So of course it will return at 100. Let's select that another example with select percentage of column. Then if I check that, it is returning as 82 percentage. But how does it come? That is the thing. Here if we check that, how many percentage? Okay, so let's get into that another example. So the next scenario we are having uh, uh, finding that average of amount for each month. Means I just want to find that number of the amount spent for the each month, that amount spent from the company for the each month against that employees. So for that I need to select that PO table again and clicking that PO table and the range, and I can select that previously selected. You can see that previously suggested things. I'm just selecting that and clicking that again and clicking that existing sheet and selecting that range what location that the PO table should be created. I'm just selecting that H28 and clicking that OK, and the table will be created here. So here my target is to find the that amount spent for the each month. So here that row should be selected against the each month because the here in the name will not be involved. Okay, I'm selecting that row, selected that month, and so the second column for each average of amount, the target is amount, so the value should be amount. So if we check that, you can see the data something like for each month how many amount spent against that persons. So grand total, you can check that it is automatically, the pivot table is automatically producing that number of amount spent for that each month, and grand total also it is showing. Okay, so here you are having another number of options, something like what is the percentage of row, what is the percentage of column. So this and all you can have different scenarios. Here we are defining as a default. Okay, and we are having one more example like sum of the amount for each name. What is the amount spent against that each name? So here we checked average, and here we are sum of the function, sum of the amount spent against each name. So for that again I'm going to select that pivot and pivot table and selecting the previously suggested things and clicking OK, clicking existing sheet and selecting this specific cell and clicking create. Now you need to do that. You select that row as a name. So columns and specify I am providing that value as a amount. Yeah, so this is how it gets summed. But I just want to uh, add one more thing. Something like I just want to filter that names. Assume I just want the name because that amount. Let's assume something like Avin already got paid, so I need to omit that Avin from the report. So what should I do? How do I do that? So from the name, I can remove that Avin from here. If we click that, automatically that Amin will be removed. And we are having one more scenario, something like how do you use that filter in that pivot table. So for that I'm just again selecting that pivot table here and selecting the existing sheet and selecting the range, suggested range here, that same range, and selecting that ranges as a H48 and the pivot table will be created here. And now I just want to filter only that specific names, means I just want that sum of values against the specific names spent against the how do we do that? So I'm just clicking the rows and selecting that names again, and it will show the list of names available in that selected ranges. So now I'm just clicking that filter here. So clicking the filter here, I'm clicking the name here. Instead of showing all the row, I don't want to show that Kavin in the list. So at that time the Kavin will be omitted from that result. And now I'm just adding that values here, and value as a amount as a sum. So if you check that, the Kavin will not be available here, and the grantor also, it will not have Kavin data. Okay, so so this is how you need to apply that filter in the pivot table. And we are having one more functionality to verify that pivot table, because it's a large amount of data collections, and it's amount based, so we cannot leave it as easily, like a function is providing all the results, so we cannot leave it to function to the return result. We need to cross verify the data. How do we do that? So we cannot check that manually also. So let's take that Karim. So I just want to cross check whether that provided data, the 3800 is correct or not. How do you do that? So for that, Excel is default function named like if you click right click, you are having that show details column. So if you click that, automatically it will show that all the details related to that Karim column, how the data are fetching into that pivot table. So the entire data you can see it here. Here, if you check that for the January month, what is the data, what is the amount provided for coming Karim, what is that amount provided from February, the entire data will be replicated for Karim. So it's a perfect work, right? So this is how you need to cross verify the pivot result in that Google spreadsheet. Hope it's clarify you, and see you again with another interesting video. Thank you for watching.